Welcome to Humanity, the epicenter of ideas surrounding transformative change that will revolutionize the way our world interacts with technology.
How to innovate with talent development within security. Our guest today will describe how he builds learning and teaching into everything his organization does to accelerate individual and organizational growth. I'm Kevin Castle, and welcome to the Humanity Podcast, where we inform and empower the public through powerful dialogue with IT visionaries. Joining me today is Mike Gentile, founder, president, and CEO of CISOshare. As a security expert and community builder, Mike has been on the front lines of research and practical implementation for countless organizations. He is a co-author of both the CISO Handbook and the CISO Soft Skills book, and actively engages and supports colleges and universities. Mike, welcome to the Humanity Podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Pleasure to have you on. One of the things when I was thinking about you joining the show, the line of questions that I really was interested to get into is just kind of what's going on in the space with security, with all of the changes in terms of work from home and kind of the new era that we are operating in. I figured it'd be good just to start with what's going on in security, since I know that's where you've spent the past couple of decades being an expert for our businesses in the area.
Yeah, I think it's all good. No, it's security before the pandemic hit. Obviously, there's as technology has really started to sprawl and organizations are doing more and more and more using technology, it's caused a lot more risk from a security perspective with how do you secure that and protect, both data and systems. And so security, even before all the pandemic was really, there was tremendous need. And attackers were more and more trying to hit it up. And then when you hit the pandemic, when the pandemic hit, you got to a place where really all of those things were magnified, both the threat landscape. So the attackers, there was more people having to attack, right? Because just people are fighting to put food on the table, and a lot of people were displaced from a work perspective. And then at the same time, the way in which an organization would protect itself, people, there were layoffs, there's constrained workforces, there's people working in, from home and in distributed places. So you have a situation where there's more attackers and more threats, and then there's more vulnerabilities. And so that's added even more fuel to the fire. And that's why you've seen, I think it ranges with who actually, the metrics, but I think it's like 300 times more attacks and bad stuff, during this time. And that was actually exactly what we thought would happen early on. We released a lot of stuff on what we thought the impacts of the pandemic would be, and put it on our site. And we're starting to give techniques for organizations to get help. And we do that a lot, and a lot of times we're wrong too. No doubt we're always honest about that. But on this one, it was pretty obvious, I think, what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And then it definitely has happened in spades on both those fronts.
Yeah, I gotcha. And so how quickly, when you were starting, we remember back to March, right? That moved really quick to where we basically had everything shut down, right? So how quickly were you and your organization kind of up and running and helping your clients and guiding them through how to navigate through the times from a security impact and threat?
We put out our pandemic guide in March. Okay. It was literally the first thing that we did coming out as we started to see stuff here, as we started to see stuff in the news. We created basically a pandemic security response model, and put that out to try and help people, and give a lot of different suggestions to kind of help them through. And the reason that we did that is because we really, a lot of times when you have like a major trauma, people kind of freeze.
Okay.
And we only know that here, at CISOshare, because we've helped, we have an incident response practice. We see incidents all the time, of course, not to the level of scale that we're seeing at the pandemic, but a lot of the human response is exactly the same. So what we tried to do was really get in front of that with the things that we work with our clients on to help them through any type of incident situation. And many of those things applied to the pandemic, and then tried to time it to the curve, where what we thought was going to happen was that you're going to see a lot of people get laid off and working from home on the early goings. And then what we're actually even seeing now, as we're hopefully getting over to the other side and coming down, you're seeing infrastructures and IT and organizations rebuild at scale. So they're hiring, they're building and going. And so now you need to really support, how do you do a reassessment of current state in your environment, and then build a plan that can build at the scale that organizations are looking to do, which is really rebuild everything. So there's different approaches from a security perspective, depending on where we are on that. So yeah, so I welcome anyone to go check out our site. We have all that models all available, a bunch of webinars on the different portions. And I think really right now we're seeing that transition from the layoffs and all of the stuff I talked on the front end to this now high growth. How do you secure and support high growth moving forward? And so that's really a lot of the calls we're getting right now is now that.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, so, since most of the listeners are coming from enterprise IT leadership, I mean, what are the common things that you would say kind of in this area of shutdowns and pandemic and the ups and downs, and potentially what we might see another kind of up and down spike, right? What do you think some of the top things they should start thinking about or doing or prepping for their organization or for their team? What would you say?
Sure. So like in the pandemic side, where some organizations are still there, right? They still are, working from home, and their workforces are constrained, and they don't have as much operational support. I think the first thing is to think tactically in your program and not really strategically. For example, like with an incident response at your organization, a lot of times people will have a big, best practice aligned incident response plan. And that doesn't always work when you're operating tactically as a business. So I think really developing a tactical response and incident plan is probably going to serve you better during this time. I think another really, really big one is to make sure that you have a really good communication system coming out of your security program and into your security program. So you have a lot of people that are working from home and working in a lot of different ways. And if they experience an issue or an attack or a virus or anything odd on their machine, or maybe they even made a mistake, their kid downloaded something, that they shouldn't have. You want to make sure that they have a very quick path to be able to inform the security program of what's going on. People want to do the right thing, but they need to know how to do it. So a lot of times we forget about that when we run our security programs. And I think it's just really important to have a lot of information that gets directly to frontline employees, and then also you have a direct mechanism back. So I think that's those two things, good communication, and in some ways thinking tactically, while many of our businesses are operating tactically, are very, very good to the left on that scale, where we're in the mess that we're kind of coming out of right now. As soon as you start getting over and you want to really start to rebuild and then make sure you do that securely, there's some different approaches. The first approach is that you start out and do a current state assessment, because it's like, after a battle has just occurred, and, that was the front end. So what your assessment that you did on your security environment, even 6 months ago, it's probably like after the invasion at Normandy, right? It's like not the same environment anymore. So you need to look at that and understand where it's, where it's at. So getting that assessment's good. I think the next thing that then you really need to do is make sure that you can build that strategic, start being more strategic in your plan, and then build that out based off of that assessment. And then the other thing that's most important and is kind of probably the other part of the conversation we have today is there is a major shortage of cybersecurity available professionals today. Before all this hit, they were projecting, I believe, over 3 million, 3 million unfilled cyber jobs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that's for the 2020 year?
Yeah, for 2021.
Oh,
that was before.
Okay.
So if you believe in the model that we're kind of projecting, that everyone's going to go back to high growth, there's an even bigger threat model right now, anyways, because there's still a lot of people out of work. Then and that metric's from Cybersecurity Ventures, I believe, too. I always like to give them credit on that.
Sure, okay.
There's other metrics out there too, but coming out on the other side of that, so there's all this work. So how you are going to get talent to actually bring them in to support you to be able to do those things from a security perspective in order to enable your business growth, that is the riddle that many business leaders are looking at right now, and that's kind of the other side of really where we spend a lot of our time. And I know I spend a lot of my time with some of the programs at CISOshare that we roll out.
Yeah. So Mike, and we had as I mentioned to you, we had a guest, Robert Santana, who's CEO of Boys and Girls Club, Orange County, or Central Coast. We had him on the show a couple of weeks back, and we were talking about just the talent shortage and the need for STEM-based education, kids to get inspired and start to look at jobs of the future and to be prepared for that, right? Because, on the other IT jobs and like application development and things like that, there's always been a tremendous amount of shortage that the U.S. has been suffering from, right? But I mean, the impact of having security jobs and talent shortage is something that impacts enterprises on a broader scale versus, development projects being delayed or not, but the things that you guys are focusing on is basically keeping the lights on in enterprises running and being safe. So have you guys seen, prior to COVID and the pandemic, have you guys seen major impacts to businesses? I mean, this shortage, and what have you seen from an industry-wide that shortage impact?
Yeah, I mean, it's massive. I mean, just that you could have that many unfilled jobs. I mean, we see it every single day in our travels, with people, organizations not being able to adequately secure themselves because they literally don't have. There's really two things that happen. They don't have enough talent in order to get the work done, but then the people that they do have suffer major burnout because they're just so overworked and just frazzled, that they end up losing those people, and then it's created a model where they can just move on to the next job, because there's a lot of demand for anyone that wants to work. Right. So I think that's what we see. And then the tangible metric with that is the number of breaches, right? I mean, it's insane.
Right.
With how many organizations are getting breached every single day, and that's a direct correlation to, in my opinion, just not enough troops out there to help fight the battle.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So I know you've got, authored a couple of books, you're running CISOshare and consulting with a lot of organizations, and you also have a separate effort just specifically focused on building out talent, right? So share with us, like, what do you focus on and how are you guys doing that? And what does that look like?
Sure. So I think, well, first, at CISOshare, when I started, this is my third cyber business. I wanted to completely focus on learning and teaching in everything we do. I wanted actually this to be an experiment, and it was just me. I'd spun out of that other business, and I wanted to just see if we could build a culture that worked with people that could learn quickly and that could teach quickly. And the reason I wanted to do that was because I had seen in some of the other businesses that the security is confusing, right? Your definition is different than my definition, and we're both right. And so I just found that people that could really learn people's perspective and communicate and then teach around those concepts, it didn't even matter how much security skill set they have, they were almost always successful. And so it literally was an experiment. I'm like, I want to see if I could bring people in and that fit that bill. And that's how we started back in the day.
Okay.
And so how that parlayed to the overall teaching experts is over time, we have gotten, I mean, a lot bit crazier with what we've tried to do in terms of taking on that model. So originally we would try to tap onto different groups in different areas, people that were available to work, even though they maybe didn't have any security experience, and we would bring them into CISOshare, and we worked a lot with veterans programs and things like that. And basically, I'd go on a surf trip with somebody, I would see how they had organized their board bag, and I'm like, that person might be interesting. Or, I'd be at a dinner and someone would say, oh yeah, Jan is really interested in cyber and all that. So, okay, bring her in. And that's how it's been to the point now, where we just ran the metrics again. We used to always say 50%, but more than 70% of the people at CISOshare, it's their first cyber job when they work here. It's their first experience to the industry, which is pretty amazing, because we were the second fastest growing security company on Inc. 5000
I saw
last
that.
year.
Congratulations. I saw that. That was really impressive.
Yeah. So, that's really been great. So that's how we started. But we really started to see that there was no correlation between somebody being, having all the pedigree of 4 years of experience and all these different things, and being good at security or being effective for us. And we found that if we were able to identify people that had aptitudes to be successful, and then we rapidly trained them, we were able to have a lot more success. So in 2019, we were sponsoring a soccer tournament with United Way, and we were listening to a program that they were running called Upskills OC, and which was designed to try and get people to livable wage in Orange County, and get them into certain jobs. And we had heard while we were listening to this, they were talking about some technical coding jobs and some transportation jobs and things like that. And I looked over at the folks that were with me from my team, and I was like, this is what we're doing. This is literally what we're doing on the security side. And I think we can maybe partner with these folks on and see if we could run that program. And so we were able to do it thanks to United Way, and Sue, the CEO, greenlighting us to try that first one. Since then, we have run multiple training rounds of identifying people that have aptitudes to be successful in cybersecurity. There's no cost for them to participate in our program. We work with women warriors. Many of the schools send us their people. We work with still United Way, WHW, many different organizations and pools that provide us these people and partner with us to both identify people that have these aptitudes, as well as much tell them that, security is not just a white guy in a hoodie typing on a computer all day long. Whereas if you go and search, that's what you think. So we spend as much time telling people that, hey, security it's a people discipline, 90% of what you're going to do. Put them into a class 4 weeks, of which why I'm in this conference room today, because we're doing a virtual one in the other room over starting tomorrow.
Okay.
And once they get through that, one of the other things that's unique about our program too is we work with people to identify what their roadblocks may be. And we don't hide behind them. That may be that they're housing insecure, lack of access to technology, to the internet, transportation, daycare, healthcare, could be visa issues. At this point, we have seen everything.
Yeah.
And we work with them on identifying those items and then partnering with them, as well as the support organizations, what we call community partners, to help people along. Our model is very different than other models, and we are trying to make talent development a team sport instead of an individual sport where it's just on the person to do it. We create a system around people. Once we get them through there, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just going to ask. So you got the 4-week cohort, right? And so then I was just curious to see what that whole progression looks like. It sounded like you were.
Yeah. So after that, then they go into an intern with us.
Okay.
And it's where we're further readying them in 3 specific roles that are in high demand in cyber: vulnerability analysts, third-party analyst and a policy analyst. So those are really in-demand positions in that model that we talked about, and all those unopened or open positions that are available. Then where we're also different is that we work with organizations that are willing to not just give these people apprenticeships, but give them actually 3 to 6 month projects for a set rate in what we really call value ships. The difference we see between an apprenticeship and a value ship is in an apprenticeship, you go and people are, it's more value for just the person learning. And someone has to spend a lot of time teaching them. In ours, it's a win-win for everybody involved. And the organization, many who need resourcing and need work done, they need to win as well as the participant. So we put them into that's called phase 4. And then from there, they actually would either get hired by that organization, or they will get re-extended on contract and then get all the way through the program. So at this point, we've offered the opportunity to hundreds of people. It's been scaling pretty rapidly. We don't charge any money for any of the participants. We sold out the cycle. We start tomorrow in like 8 seconds. And we're trying to really scale the program, even with our competitors and whoever wants, in order to help us, really help as many people as we can. And then also it helps us from a business perspective too. It needs to be a win-win for everyone involved in our program. So that's where we're at now. We are pushing with developing curriculum with some college universities, where we're going to extend. Right now in our program, we develop people from maybe no experience in security at all to a junior level.
Okay.
So the next round of curriculum that we're looking to do with universities is to get them from a junior level to a mid-level in those roles that I talked about. And we're really excited about that because we're really taking on the economic models that we think are really hindering the ability for essentially our teaching model to work. I mean, it makes no sense to me whatsoever that a student has to pay for their education at all. If you solely look at it from the value that an educated worker gives to other people in the equation. Yeah. So for example, as us, if we bring those people on, we're going to hopefully make money on them, right? The more value, so it makes sense for you to get trained as quickly as you can and know as much as you can, especially for us. We're going to be able to put value, give value on that. The hiring partners that we work with, these people that need more work done and don't have enough people, they get a ton of value when you get educated. So all these people, if they're staffing partners, they get a ton of value by being able to resell you to everybody else.
Right.
Why in the world is the student paying for all this? So we are working our butts off to change that dynamic, and it's been an unbelievable amount of work, but it's just what I'm supposed to be doing right now in addition to running this business. And the more that we get into it, the more you see how broken that economic model is, and how I firmly believe by fixing it, it unlocks it starts solving many problems automatically. Now, I'm not just saying free school for everybody. Sure. I'm saying we'll give you the opportunity, and if you work your butt off and if you increase that value, then you've done your part. Then there's other people that can start, that in that value equation where maybe it makes sense for them to start paying your education to accelerate you even more. And those programs are exactly what we're working to do, and hopefully get green-lighted here for even in the end of this year is what we're trying to prototype that. And then we're trying to really capture that story. the nuts thing about what we've been doing is when we started filming from day one of everything, all the experiences from learning and teaching. So we've got all these pieces, and hopefully we'll be able to wrap that together maybe sometime to kind of show this stuff. Because unless you see it, in my opinion, you don't see how crazy it is that people are graduating with debt right now.
Yeah.
It's insane to me. And I'm not a political guy. I don't have any party lines in this. All I'm telling you is it is ridiculous that people are graduating with debt. It makes no sense.
Well, our kids are roughly the same age, so it's approaching for us both as well, right? So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, so as you guys, so it sounds you rolled this out in 2019, right? And so you've had several groups go through this process. What are some of the things that you've seen as you watch people go from like start to finish, or kind of start to where they're at in their current journey, right?
Well, I mean, it's been utterly life-changing for me. I mean, I think one thing, just our inclusion and diversity metrics are insane, because we remove the roadblocks and partner with people on the roadblocks. And actually, we didn't set out to do all these different things. We just have found, I mean, we're 41% women go through our program and 54% minority in what's considered a high-tech discipline, which is insane, if you look at comparative metrics. And we have started to now go back and look at why that is. And what we think is because, one, we help people to remove roadblocks, such as maybe financial issues or other issues that disproportionately affect different groups, and just give them an opportunity in order to come in there and a support system to make it through. That's one of the things we think.
Yeah.
And we're still learning, but that for sure. I mean, if you look at our, I think I'm in our training room, so I have one of the pictures. Like, we are always a very diverse group, and those people make it through the program and then also make it all the way into these working positions. So I think that's one thing we've learned. We have seen no correlation between, like I said earlier, what your previous background was and your ability to be successful in cyber or even in highly complex business environments. I think the other thing that I've learned personally, because I actually a lot of times teach these classes.
Okay.
A lot of the reason because, our approach is a little nuts, and I don't think anyone else would necessarily teach some of the things that we did. I know in the beginning, I was really afraid whether this thing was going to absolutely work or not. I didn't want to show up, or I didn't want to waste people's time. I didn't want to waste my team's time. But I think we've seen that it works. But the thing that I've really learned the most is that not hiding behind people's roadblocks, not making people hide about whatever their issues are that are hindering them, letting them put them out front and creating a support system around them to work through them. It makes even what is what could be the most difficult problem as taking on as an individual, completely doable. Completely doable when you identify that and bring it out on front where people are comfortable. That's one thing that I think we've seen. It's taboo in our society to say you don't have healthcare, and maybe you're using illicit drugs because maybe you also went through a trauma event, and you're trying to just make it through. So yeah, you're not going to be able to pass that drug screen, and if you don't have that support system to help you, you're not going to get there. Or somebody that maybe has visa issues and is like trying to figure it out, but doesn't have access to counsel. Right. These are things that if you're working on them on your own, you can't do. But if you have that support system, it's unbelievable what you can take on. And I could go through 50 every roadblock, something like giving someone a MiFi device so they can connect to the internet.
Yeah.
That's what we did early on. That's, for you as someone that's, really leading a company. And for me, I mean, that's like a no-brainer expense for me, right? Okay, great. I'll give it to you. That's out. But for somebody else, you know, it's difficult when you're taking that on your own. But the biggest thing that has really gotten me to believe in this program is that I can tell that when we invest in these people in the beginning, especially people that maybe have had some pretty significant roadblocks or traumas, or, you know, maybe they had domestic violence, there could be something that really caused them to maybe get off track, or something that they're trying to work through. And many of our learning and development programs, they're not there for these people. They can't go to school. They can't afford it. They
Right.
can't get healthcare when now they're out on their own. They can't talk on the phone if they're in shared housing, because you're not allowed to talk on phones in shared housing. You know, they can't solve these things, but if you work with them and show them that you believe in them and give them that opportunity, I can tell, at least in the classes that I've taught, and there's others that teach them, the exact moment when it turns in them that someone's believing in me again, A, and then 2, I can do this. Like I can be successful in cyber. People are horrified to enter this discipline, you know, and I can see it in their eyes. And from that point, the acceleration in their development is insane. And it's the same literally thing I see every time. And so now we're looking at just rolling that out in a more effective way and trying to help them to connect the dots even quicker so that we can develop them even faster.
So I got a question for you, Mike. So to me, like, I know you've built several businesses, you've written a couple of books, and, you know, I remember reading that your company had like that crazy growth in the award Inc. last year. So, I mean, they're not even super successful. And a lot of people that we talk to on the podcast have this community involvement kind of vein of passion, right? So what was the moment when you decided, like, this is worth the time, this is the thing that I should be doing? I mean, I think you alluded to earlier, like, it was just something I was meant to do. What was that moment? And then how do we get others in our community to help to participate and to make that?
Well, I think that in the easy answer is I at least like to give back a little bit, and it's in some ways even selfish, because I've always been an entrepreneur and I take risks, and it removes some of the stress for me. And that if our business just completely and utterly fails, at least I helped a little bit around the way.
Okay. I like that. Okay.
That's one thing.
Yeah.
As it relates to CISO Share and this experiment, what I've only come to the conclusion of recently is that this program and our learning style, it's representative of me. I had a ton of roadblocks. I was not voted most successful to do anything in high school. I was suspended from every grade in high school, never doing anything bad. But, you know, I have some auditory disabilities. I've got a lot of issues that all work off of each other, but I've always been able to come up with an idea and organize that in my brain. Now, when I was younger, I couldn't communicate it, and people had no idea what the hell I was talking about 99% of the time. And I got frustrated by that. And in many other ways, I am a mess. I'm not good with direction. When I go on business trips here, they always send someone with me to help make sure I can get where I'm going. You know, I'll get there if I have to, but you know, there's, you know, my kids don't want me driving them to soccer practice, not because they don't think I'm going to get them there, or we're going to go in the wrong way, or something's going to get messed up. But so early in my career, though, people took time with me to actually mentor me and help me to be able to communicate and help to speak and really bring the couple aptitudes and skills that maybe I am good at to the forefront, and remove and help me to work through the roadblocks that hinder me. I am a train wreck in many other ways.
Yeah. And
from that, you know, and I'll always be thankful to those people. That's the spirit of what we were trying to do, because everybody has roadblocks and everybody has aptitudes and abilities that can really help this world shine. And why I've been so excited about CISO Share and also scared because we've been successful is that we're doing that and we're trying to do it at scale. And if I've even helped one person, like I know people have helped me, then it has been worth it. And it's been invigorating in that we are helping. I think we are helping a lot of people, and I think our business is doing pretty darn good too, which is nuts. And I get to be a CEO, even though I'm a train wreck in most ways. And and I think I'm okay at a CEO because of some of the skills maybe that I do have. And so that's why I think this is good. And I think for things that impact people that are important to them or that have impacted them in their lives, or things that maybe others have done for them, I think giving back on those things, it is the most fulfilling way to say thank you, in my opinion. And I'm still learning this. And so whatever that is in your life, maybe that's someone that taught you to cook, and, you can go and give that on to other people, or, maybe, who knows, there's tons of ways which we're impacted by others. And so you can give back to that, and the power in that will, in my opinion, will be very fulfilling for you, but also it creates an energy that people around you gravitate to. And I think that's also what we're seeing as everything we're working on is building.
That's interesting. Yeah, as you were talking about your kind of high school experience, I'm like similar with me, right? Not too far from the similar example. And like the one teacher that actually didn't write me off, that actually invested time with me and believed with me, was our computer teacher, Steve Willett. Right. And so like, it's no doubt that I chose, a path to go down computer science when I didn't even own a computer, because the computer teacher in my high school actually was there to care and support for me. Right. When most people didn't think that there was a future. Right. So, and then that's part of what led me to support the Boys and Girls Club and participate there is really to try to help the kids get inspired the similar way that like that individual inspired me. Right. So it's interesting because I think these seeds that you're planting and the seeds that, or we're hopefully planting in our community, they pay off dividends, because it creates not just a success story with an individual, but it creates a pattern of giving back and being grateful. Right. And so I think, it's a long-term strategy of impact, right? Not even though it's potentially impacting a few people around, right, in the vicinity. But
but those seeds it can be enablement of, just a LinkedIn connection and then helping somebody. It's amazing how just a little contribution can just turn into an unbelievable thing. And so I think if people start looking for even doing those little things, they can have unbelievable impacts. And then I think as a learner or someone that wants to improve, you also are contributing by taking that step and taking on that fear. We talk with people that are horrified. That's the big thing. People are scared to take the risk, or people are scared to help, or people are scared, and I get scared all the time too. But I think, just take that step, and it's amazing what you can actually accomplish, even, and how much value you can bring into this world by, also helping yourself with your learning goals.
Love it, Mike. Russ, so what would be the way for people that are, involved in nonprofits looking to help people in their, purview of impact, or people that want to help and participate in what you're doing to do for the community? What would be the best way for them to participate and help?
Yeah, so we've created a whole network of partners that operate in our ecosystem. So if you go to cisoshare.com/cyberforward, and we're expanding it more with some of the other programs we're doing, you can look, and there's an overview of the different type of partners that we have. So we have community partners. Those are people, that can identify, people that with talent, right? They may be for-profit, they may be nonprofit, but they're people that want to help us to get candidates. We have our competitors who could be hiring partners. We open our program up to our competitors they're welcome to come in and operate in our model and in terms of sourcing and using these great people. We've got mentor partners, so people that are experts in cyber or experts in technology or in business settings that donate their time as that support system. So come to the site and see if anything's of interest to you. The other way to help is I would say, I don't know this exact statistic, I'm gonna be wrong, but I would say probably between 20 and 25% of the people that end up coming to our class are someone that's just floating around the internet. They see a podcast like this or something that maybe that I've done or someone on our team has done. And they're like, I know somebody that would be good in security or wants to get into security, and they end up getting into our program. And so if you know people, do that little bit, and even giving there, you can enable opportunities for there. And then the other thing that we need more hiring partners, people that can employ these people in our unique model.
Okay.
We have plenty of people that want to take our program, and like I said, it sells out quick. But in our model, we need to get them working in order to get them real world work experience, and that's all about having enough hiring partners to give them that shot.
Okay.
Yeah, and so those are other, our largest. We have some use case stories on our website. One of our largest hiring partners has been awesome for us and really helps in the program of Pacific Life. So you can go and watch videos on the site about their experience and how it works and such. If you have questions, reach out to us. We have people on our team that can talk with you about that or any of the programs that we have.
Nice, Mike. Well, I just want to say thank you for making that impact. I mean, I like I said, I talked to several folks that are committed to kind of uplift and rise the tide of the technology community in the Southern California area and really help those that are not necessarily seeing that path in technology and all the benefits that it gives to people like you and I that have kind of gone all in and built businesses or grown organizations. And so really appreciate what you're doing for everybody out there. And we'll make sure to put in the show notes all of the links that you just called out and mentioned. And I want to just overall say thanks for being a guest on the show. And I encourage everybody who's listening to take a look at what Mike has shared on his website as well.
Well, thanks for giving us the opportunity to talk. It's always great to talk with you, Kevin. And thank you.
All right, man. I appreciate it. I also want to recognize our listeners. Thank you for tuning in the Humanity Podcast. I hope you gained some valuable knowledge today. Please subscribe if you haven't already and send us any feedback or ideas you'd like to see for future shows. I'm your host, Kevin Castle, and you've been listening to Humanity.